Okay. Welcome, everyone. This presentation is an overview of our replication of the 2015 study by Downs, Miltenberger, Bernatsky, and Witherspoon, the effects of video self-evaluation on skill acquisition with yoga postures. Before we begin, I would like to introduce today's presenters. Melissa?
Hi.
Allie?
Hello.
Kate?
Hello.
Heather?
Hi.
And my name is Sarah. Today we have some objectives that we'll go over for this presentation. First, we will review the original study and supporting literature. Then we'll go over the purpose of this project and study. Then we will cover all components of the methods for the study. And then we'll go over the individual results for each group member. We will discuss the limitations that were discovered through the process of replicating the study. And then we will end with our conclusion. And now here's Allie to discuss our original study.
The study conducted by Downs and Associates evaluated the use of video self-evaluation and video feedback to increase the accuracy of yoga poses. The interventions were assessed in a multiple baseline design across behaviors with 2 university males, ages 21 and 24. The participants did not have experience in yoga and did not have any injuries. The study was conducted in a fitness lab at the physical education department on the university campus. The materials included 1 digital single-lens video camera on a tripod for recording the yoga poses, a laptop with iTunes video playing software for reviewing the video, and yoga mats for the participants' use. The participants completed 3 yoga poses such as tree pose, warrior 2 pose, and downward facing dog pose, and a task analysis was created for each pose. The participants recorded the poses via video camera and scored them using the task analysis. To be counted as correct, all poses must have been held for at least 30 seconds. During baseline, the participants recorded themselves completing each pose by following the task analysis without seeing the poses being done or being provided any feedback on how they were doing. During the intervention phase, the participants viewed the poses prior to performing and watching their own videos immediately after they had participated in the pose, and evaluated the pose by using the task analysis to score each of the steps in the pose. Results showed that video self-evaluation increased the accuracy of all poses, and video feedback further increased the accuracy of 1 pose for 1 participant. Now here is Kate to go over the review of supporting literature regarding the study.
So in our original study, these interventions were assessed in a multiple baseline design across behaviors. Results showed that video self-evaluation increased the accuracy of all poses, and video feedback further increased the accuracy of 1 pose for 1 participant. So our dependent variable in our original study was yoga practice. Some supporting research for this dependent variable concentrated on the effects that yoga practice has on health and well-being. An article written in 2009 by Fisherman and colleagues called Understanding and Preventing Yoga Injuries notes that the American Association of Orthopedic Surgeons say that the rewards of basic yoga outweigh the potential physical risks as long as you take caution and perform the exercises in moderation. In the Fisherman study, over 1,000 yoga teachers, yoga therapists, and other clinicians from 34 different countries participated in a survey that determined the most frequently observed injuries in yoga practice and provided recommendations to prevent these injuries during practice. One method they suggested involved the use of very precise modeling from the teacher. Another article written by Ross, Friedman, Bevins, and Thomas in 2013 showed the same sentiment that yoga was a practice that offered individuals better self-restraint, quieting of the senses, better concentration, as well as for general meditation purposes. Their findings included the idea that yoga is especially beneficial for a number of populations, including the elderly, individuals with chronic health conditions, and for people with mental health issues, especially depression. In our original study, our independent variable was video modeling. Our LIT review explored the current findings of the effectiveness of video modeling. This strategy is used in many different settings, including teaching life skills or vocational skills to individuals with developmental deficits. It's also commonly used to teach physical activities as well as teaching skills to staff or staff training. An article written in 2009 by Boyer and colleagues called Video Modeling by Experts with Video Feedback to Enhance Gymnastic Skills noted the use of video modeling and feedback in sports like basketball, tennis, swimming, and football, and how they improved skill execution. So this study included very similar methods to our original study and our replication. They included a research study on the effectiveness of combining video modeling by experts with video feedback on the development of 3 complex gymnastic skills. The results of this study indicated that exposure to video modeling and video feedback improves skill performance more quickly than their practice and coaching alone. So most people require some type of job training and have viewed models of job tasks. Video modeling is used in a study by English and colleagues called Effectiveness of Video Modeling with Video Feedback on Vocational Skills of Adults with Autism Spectrum Disorder. In this study, 2 out of 3 participants' job skills showed improvement after viewing a video model and receiving feedback. We also see studies using video modeling in our careers and within our education. This is a method that online classes like the one we're in now utilize to teach skills. The article by Brian Tyner and Feinup, a comparison of video modeling, text-based instruction, and no instruction for creating multiple baseline graphs in Microsoft Excel was used in our class to help teach graphing skills. This article concluded that participants that were provided video modeling instruction constructed more accurate graphs in less time than those participants who were only given text-based instructions. This concludes the literature review section for our replication, and now on to Sarah with the purpose of our study.
The purpose of the study is to evaluate if video self-evaluation increases accuracy of yoga poses. The purpose of the project is to understand how to replicate a research study and present research findings and gain experience writing a research manuscript. Now back to Allie to discuss some of the components of methods for our study.
There were 5 total participants in this study and all were female. The ages of the participants ranged from 24 to 31 years old. Each participant had no prior experience to yoga and the poses performed as well. There were also no injuries that were reported. Each participant did not participate in any yoga practice outside of the study. The setting of the study was conducted in the participants' homes. Each participant used their cell phones to record them performing each yoga pose. The participants used yoga mats to perform the yoga poses. A timer was used to record the amount of time each pose was held for. A computer was used to view the yoga videos during intervention phase, and a task analysis was used to record treatment fidelity. Our target behavior was that each individual will perform 3 different yoga poses: tree pose, warrior 2 pose, and downward facing dog pose. The definition of tree pose that was used in the study is as followed. This behavior occurs when participant stands on a yoga mat upright, gradually lifting one knee directly upwards with one or both hands placed on the lifted knee. While shifting their weight to their heel on the floor, the participant will slowly move their lifted foot towards the inner thigh of their other leg. Participant then rests their foot on their inner thigh for at least 30 seconds. Example, participant stands up straight, lifts knee upwards, balancing by resting both hands on their lifted knee. They move their foot towards the inner thigh of their other leg. Place their hands together in front of their chest and holds the position for 35 seconds. Non-example. Participant stands upright, lifts knee upwards, and places both hands on their lifted knee. Participant moves their lifted foot towards their planted leg, but finding it hard to balance, only rests their foot on their other thigh for 10 seconds. The definition of warrior 2 pose that was used in the study is as followed. This behavior entails standing on a yoga mat with both feet planted firmly on the floor at a distance wider than the hips. Participant then points the toes of one foot facing outwards while keeping the toes of their other foot facing forwards. Right toes facing to the right and left toes facing towards the left corner of your mat. Participant then raises their arms and places them in line with their shoulders while bending the knee of the leg facing outwards. Participant must hold pose for at least 30 seconds. Example, participant stands up with each foot placed firmly on the ground at a distance as wide as their hips. Participant points the toes of their left foot directly to the left and adjusts their right leg so their right toes are pointing toward right corner of their mat. Participant raises arms upward and balances with them, pointing straight and in line with their shoulders. Participant slowly bends their left knee while keeping their right leg straight and holding the pose for 30 seconds. Non-example. Participant stands up with each foot firmly on the ground at the same width as their hips. Participant points the toes of their right foot directly to the right and moves their left leg, so their left toes are pointing toward right corner of their mat. Participant put their hands on their hips and stands upright for 30 seconds. The definition of Warrior Two pose that was used in the study is as followed. This behavior occurs when a participant places their hands and knees on the floor with knees below hips and hands directly below the shoulders. Participant then places their elbows on the ground where hands were and moves their hands out so all fingers are touching the mat. Participant then walks their knees directly backward, away from their elbows, and places their forehead on the mat. Participant slowly steps both feet forward toward their elbows, lifts their body up until their arms and legs are straight, looking towards the ground for 30 seconds. Example, participant gets onto hands and knees, with hands directly below shoulders and knees directly below hips. Then participant drops elbows to the ground where hands were, stretching hands and placing them on yoga mat. Participant moves knees backwards, places forehead on mat, and rests for 5 seconds. Participant moves feet forward, curls their toes under their feet, and lifts hips up until legs and arms are straight. Pose is held for at least 30 seconds. Non-example. Participant stands on hands and knees. The participant then places their elbows down in line with their hands. Participant moves their knees backward and stretches their head upwards. Participant then moves feet forward, curls their toes under their feet, and pushes up with arms. Pose is held for 30 seconds. Each pose was recorded using the participant's cell phone, and the participants recorded their data using a task analysis. For a pose to be considered correct, it must have correctly followed the step listed in the task analysis and held for 30 seconds. The design of the study was a multiple baseline design. Now here is Heather to go over the baseline and treatment phases, inter-observer agreement, and treatment integrity.
During baseline, participants performed the 3 target behaviors: tree pose, warrior two pose, and downward facing dog. Each pose was video recorded 3 times per week across 2 consecutive weeks. After each session of video recording, participants graded their pose using the designated task analysis. During intervention, YouTube videos for instruction were implemented. Each video gave instruction for the particular poses which were being tracked. Each participant watched the designated video for each particular pose, recorded their self performing the pose, then tracked their progress on the task analysis. This was done for each pose separately. IOA was conducted using 2 independent observers. For our replication, these observers were group members. IOA was taken on 33% of recorded videos to assure agreement. IOA was calculated by dividing the number of agreements by the number of disagreements, or by the number of agreements plus disagreements. For treatment integrity, IOA was used to evaluate the performance agreement. If IOA did not match 80 to 100%, then the intervention would have to be revisited.
Thank you, Heather. Now we will discuss results per group member, and Melissa is up first.
Hi, I'm Melissa, and I will begin discussing my results of this replication study. Baseline data was collected for 6 sessions across 3 different poses. The first pose I will discuss is the tree pose. The average percent correct performance on baseline tree pose sessions was 73%, with data ranging from 50 to 88%. For the second pose, the Warrior Two pose, the average percent correct was 83. Baseline data for the downward dog pose had an average of 75%. The range of this data was 63 to 88%. Our intervention phase included video self-evaluation for about 6 sessions. For the tree pose, the average was 98% correct performance of the pose. Data ranged from 88% to 100%. This was an average increase of 25% from baseline. Warrior II pose had an average of 97% correct performance, with data ranging from 83 to 100%. There was an average increase of 14% from baseline. The final pose of intervention included an average percent of correct steps completed was 90%. Data ranged from 63 to 100%. This was a 15% increase in accuracy from baseline. Based on a 94% inter-observer agreement across all phases, this data demonstrates that video self-evaluation was effective in producing noticeable changes among the yoga poses. And now to Allie.
My results show that my baseline average for tree pose was 98% and baseline range was 88 to 100%. Baseline average for Warrior II pose was 100% and baseline range was 100%. Baseline average for downward facing dog was 98% and baseline range was 88 to 100%. After conducting the intervention phase, show that an intervention average for all 3 poses was 100% and range for all 3 poses was 100%. The intervention was terminated after 5 consecutive scores of 100% for each pose. There wasn't a significant change between phases that could be seen from looking at my results, but my strength and performance of each pose did improve. Heather acted as my IOA observer, and we had 100% agreement on 3 of the interventions, which is 33% of the total interventions. Now here is Kate with her results.
In my baseline, I had an average of 94% for tree pose, with a range of 88% to 100%. For warrior pose, I had an average of 64% in a range of 50% to 83%. I had an average of 90% for downward dog and baseline, with data ranging from 75% to 100%. These averages increased to 100% for tree pose and intervention, and the data ranged from 100% to 100%. The average for warrior pose in my intervention was 95%, and the data ranged from 83% to 100%. And for intervention of downward dog, the average increased to 100% with a range of 100%. Based off of IOA data provided by Melissa, with calculated above our set level of 82%, I determined that the intervention was successful. And now on to Sarah. Go ahead.
During baseline, my averages and ranges are as follows. For tree pose, the average was 35.4%, ranging from 25 to 50%. For Warrior II pose, the average was 44.4%, ranging from 33.3 to 66.7%. For downward facing dog pose, the average was 39.5%, ranging from 25 to 50%. However, as you can see in the graphs on the right-hand side of this slide, I progressed in all poses. The average and range for intervention are as follows. For tree pose, the average was 100% with a range of 100%. For Warrior II pose, the average was also 100% with a range of 100%. For downward facing dog pose, the average was 95.8%, ranging from 75 to 100%. For IOA, Sarah and I had an 83 to 92% match. Based off of all the results, the intervention was successful for my portion of the replication. And here's Sarah with her results.
For tree pose, my baseline average was 77% with a baseline range of 50% to 88% accuracy. In my Warrior II pose, baseline average was 83% with baseline range from 67% to 100% accuracy. For downward facing dog, my baseline average was 48% with the range being 38% to 50%. As you can see by my data table and graphs, I improved from baseline to intervention. With tree pose, intervention average was 93%, and that ranging from 88 to 100%, in which interventions were terminated after 3 consecutive interventions of 100% accuracy. In Warrior 2, my intervention average was 94%, with intervention range from 83 to 100%, and Downward Facing Dog intervention average was 97% with baseline, intervention range from 88% to 100% accuracy. Kate acted as my IOA observer, and we had 100% agreement on 3 of the interventions, which is 33% of the total interventions needed to show treatment integrity. This demonstrates the accuracy, the effectiveness of using video feedback for this intervention for the replication study. Now here's Melissa to discuss the limitations of our study.
Thanks, Sarah. Although the data demonstrated that video self-evaluation might be effective for improving performance of yoga poses, some limitations should be discussed. Most participants seem to have a slight upward trend in baseline data. This is most likely due to practice effects, the repeated performance of yoga poses, as well as having to watch the videos to develop the task analyses may have led to increased performance. A second limitation to the replication of the study was the short time constraints due to the brevity of this course. More accurate data may have become visible with time to collect more data, including maintenance data. Also, due to the shortened amount of time we needed to deviate from the original study in that we only used 1 IOA observer per participant instead of 2. Also, another limitation was having a lack of outside resources. This included not having access to a yoga instructor for instruction and feedback. As well, we possibly could have had more accurate IOA data if we were able to use outside independent observers instead of group members. Furthermore, all participants were located in different areas of the world. This means sessions were conducted in different environments and at different times of the day, which could possibly disrupt data accuracy. Also, although minimal, there were slight technological issues. This includes interruption of internet services, which affected multiple participants' ability to upload session videos and data at the specified times. It was not ideal considering the short time frame to have data collection completed. However, all participants persevered and completed all of the necessary work. And now to Heather for the conclusion.
In reference to the baseline and intervention average and range charts, it is clear that I, Heather, made the most progress between baseline and intervention phase. In tree pose, I went from 35.4% to 100%. Warrior 2 pose, I averaged 44.4% in baseline to 100% intervention. And lastly, downward facing dog pose, I went 39.5% to 95.8%. Allie had the least progress between baseline and intervention phases. She was at 98% for tree pose and went to 100% in intervention. Warrior 2 pose, she went from 100% to 100%. And downward facing dog pose, she went from 98% to 100%. However, Allie's baseline to intervention phase scores could have been due to the fact she watched the intervention videos to create the task analysis before baseline data was taken. In comparing all participants' averages and ranges, each improved from baseline to intervention phase. IOA was scored as an 80 to 100% match for all participants, which represented the use of video recording and task analysis allowed each participant to see improvement and progress with the target. In discussing what we learned from the project, we acknowledge that some of us did in fact have experience in the target behaviors. Tree pose, Warrior 2 pose, downward facing dog pose. For example, Allie watching the intervention videos before baseline data was taken, and Kate who did the definitions for each pose. Having outside participants, like a yoga instructor, which was used in the original study, could have helped these limitations. We did, however, notice improvement in the 30 seconds which yoga poses were held. It was evident that each of us had progressed in strength and safety precautions when performing the poses. But because this was not what was being tracked for this particular study, the graphs do not reflect this progression. Overall, the replication process has given each of us insight of how important it is to have peer-reviewed articles, as well as the importance of replication to assure intervention works. We would not want to implement an intervention unless it has been peer-reviewed and proven to work for the target behavior of a client. We hope you enjoyed our replication study. Thank you.
This concludes our presentation of our replication project. We look forward to reading your comments and answering any questions you may have in this week's discussion board. Thank you. Bye.